Welcome to the podcast. This is directly to you. It's episode 217. I'm AJ. I'm joined by Parker. We're from Redirect. I said that in the order. That was kind of weird. You can support us by going to youtube.com/watchredirect, twitch.tv/watchredirect, and you can do that with $4.99. Or if you're on Twitch specifically, you have an Amazon Prime account, you can link it to your Twitch account, and you get a free subscription courtesy of Jeffy B. Take the money from him, give it to us. It's better served, better used that way. And in exchange for that, you get loyalty badge, you get emotes, you get free Switch keys from time to time, you get access to supporters on Discord where we record this show currently right now. You can hear it live and be part of the Peanut Gallery, and we read the chat, and sometimes it's incorporated into the show. Not even sometimes, pretty much every time.
Yeah.
True. So if you want to be a part of the show and you ever listen to directly, you're like, hey, they didn't say this or they forgot about that, you could be the change you want to see in the chat.
It is. I mean, not that I listen to it directly to you because, you know, I just talking it and stuff. But actually, no, that's a lie. The times that I happen to be gone and you have a guest on or something, there's very frequently things that I'm like, man, I just this thing. Like, and, you know, I can't make you say it because I mean, typically I'm listening after the fact because I'm busy during the
chat. You could you know, correct the course.
That's right.
Also, you can check out our Patreon. There's all different types of stuff that you can get for all those things, and all the things that are listed there you can get for an equivalent amount of support on our other monetary platforms. If you YouTube member, Twitch subscriber, so on and so forth. All of those things also stack. So if you're a Twitch subscriber and you're also a YouTube member at the $5 level, you'll get the same things that 8-bit members get and whatnot, like game nights. We did it for this month, but next month it's going down. Everybody, you can be a part of the game night. It's going to be fun. We're going to play something. Who knows what? But right now we're going to talk about, I guess, people that are not playing games anymore.
True.
Pretty soon. Google Stadia, it's freaking dead, man. Google killed it. Whoever would have thought? Nobody ever called this. We didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah. It's painful. I mean, like, just painful to watch because, like, you know, it was predictable from the start. Like, they could have proved us wrong, you know. Yeah. They didn't. They surely didn't. But
I was hoping they would. But my hope for them proving everybody wrong died when it actually launched.
Yeah, right, for sure.
Because I think that the business model just doesn't work for something that's unproven. Like, on like a face value level. Looking at it, it's like, okay, you get basically a console as long as you have an internet connection for a monthly fee and the upfront cost of like a controller and maybe a Chromecast if you want that specifically, right? Which, to their credit, they were just throwing at people for various things. Like, I have two of them. I have two of those bundles that I got for free. Not even through YouTuber privilege, just because Google at various times was like, yo, you want one of these? You have a Google account. And I was like, sure. And I just got two of those packages. But then you're telling people spend $60.
Yep.
Or more, depending, on buying video games that they're already convinced they're not going to exist in a year, you know? So you have, obviously there's people that like did believe in it and did trust that it was going to continue to exist, and they invested money in it and bought games and did all that good dear stuff. But there was a lot of people that just from jump would not spend that kind of money on something that they already are convinced is DOA, you know?
I mean, that's the thing, like, because honestly, if you have, you know, say you have 10 million people or whatever that are like, yeah, I would use this service, like, people are saying service is good, like it functionally works or something, and like it's got the games that you want and stuff. If there's 10 million people that would be into that, but have that one concern that, like, if I spend money on this, the money's going to be down the drain, and like I won't get to play these games down the road, and like I won't own these games, all that kind of stuff. And then suddenly, like, I mean, you could you could lose basically all of those people just through that alone. Like, that's a pretty strong deterrent from wanting to do anything with it, because it's like, well, there's other places that I could just play those games instead, which, yeah, there is. And that's the other bit, is that they never had any first party games that were like specifically there, and like, I don't think that would have been enough to save it on its own, unless there was one like just incredibly killer app kind of thing, but that feels really unlikely that would have ever happened in the first place. But yeah, I think the business model not being some variety of just really easy access, low, what's the word I'm looking for? Low barrier to entry and low commitment kind of a thing was the problem, from day one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it also, like, this situation kind of sucks because, like, people, for sure, like consumers, specifically the consumers that are like chronically online and like their whole personality is shaped by being a gamer. Like, those type of people didn't like this service, but there's a good amount of developers that this business model helped them in terms of like making it easier for them to like test their games and stuff, and those developers were like left in the dark on this. Like,
yeah, right.
I have a tweet up here right now, and it's from Paul Tassi. I don't know. Hold on, wait. Let me click into this and see what outlet and whatnot. But he's from Forbes. And he's talking about the refunds and stuff like that, but he's also like showcasing some of the developers. Other places like Bungie use Stadia to more easily test the games while working from home. Guessing they also just found out today that's out the window. And there's a Bungie developer that says, the developers at Stadia created a development platform that's empowered us to continue to create and evaluate Destiny 2 from home over the past few years. I'm sure today is rough for a lot of folks. Thanks for helping us make games. So on that end, this sucks too. Like, this had like utility. Like, forget the fact that like gamers didn't want to like it. It was useful, demonstrably so. So it kind of sucks on that end that they shuttered this.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there were developers too that like had games coming out in the next couple of days that they're like, well, this is the first I'm hearing of it. Like, that just had no idea. And I don't know if their games are coming out on other platforms as well, or if they were Stadia exclusive or what. I'm look sure enough into that to know.
Like, okay, here's the initial tweet that was on here from the same Twitter user.
Oh yeah,
there's a tweet about the thing. Tangle Tower was due to launch on Stadia in 2 days time, and this article was the first I heard about it shutting down. And then somebody replied and said, we have a title coming out November 1st. Now we hear about it. Now we hear about this. That's crazy. So like, and I don't know why there's so many, especially like it seems recently, so many things like this. Like Mixer was a similar situation where they just pull the plug, and all the people that are like involved on the inside, whether it be like creator contracts where it's like you exclusively, provide content for our platform, and they pull the plug, or people that obviously like work for these companies that they're finding out like this. Like it wasn't like this like imminent thing that's like, okay, we're going to prepare you for this, we're going to help find new opportunities, or at least let you know that there's an expiration date, right. They're just immediately, all right, this is dying, see you later, that's kind of rough.
It's insane. And like the thing too is that, so I saw what's his face that used to be at Kotaku, and he's a guy, Jason Schreier. That's the one. So I saw Jason Schreier say like that he'd heard from a bunch of places too that they'd spent like tens of millions of dollars per game on some of the biggest games, like some of the the ones that were like, showing the power of the thing or whatever. So like Red Dead Redemption 2, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and like the ones they were marketing with, especially, I think, they spent like tens of millions of dollars on those games. So it just seems like if you're going to be throwing all this money around, which like, I don't know back end of that kind of stuff very much, but numbers that I've heard before are like, $5 million for exclusivity and stuff like that, which is like, for other companies that are like, I don't know, PlayStation or whatever, so tens of millions is like, that's a lot of money. So if you're already throwing that money around, it baffles me that you wouldn't just at least try the regular subscription model instead, instead of just like canning it completely. Well, I mean, so I know there also was Stadia Pro or something like that.
Yeah.
Google Stadia Pro. Is that, I think that's more like you get a couple of free games.
Yeah.
Or do you get all of the games?
I think you get some free games. There was like partnered get like I think Destiny at first. It is free to play now, just across the board. But I think Destiny 2 was like one of the games that it's like, if you sign up with us on this, you get this game for free.
Yeah. So looking at it, Stadia programs, it says play 50 plus games instantly. This honestly sounds more like a Game Pass situation.
Yeah.
Which it is what it should be in general, but they didn't market this near, like they should have led with this and only this, and then do a side thing of like, and I guess if you want to own a game, you can pay for it specifically. But like this was like the afterthought for some reason, as opposed to being the front runner product. And I think honestly, if they just led with this across the board, I feel like things could have turned out differently. I just don't know. And I mean, the other thing too, that because we talked about this a long time ago. Actually, this might have been before I was even on the channel, and it might have just been you and Logan that talked about it. No, I think all that was happening as I was joining.
I'm pretty sure
like
the Stadia thing was like once you were already a part of it.
I think so. Yeah, it was like tail end of Logan. Yeah. Okay. But like honestly, if they had managed to partner with Nintendo and be like have Stadia Pro on the Switch as an additional service or whatever, like I don't see that happening on Nintendo's side retrospectively, especially with them having NSO. Like, because before they didn't really have a subscription model at all. I guess they had Nintendo Switch Online by then, but
it wasn't the same.
It was barely anything. So like in retrospect, probably wouldn't have happened, but I feel like that could have been a good partnership for them if both parties were willing to make it happen, which I don't think either one probably was. So
I've been scrolling down some of the games that they had on offer, and I don't know, I guess still have for Stadia Pro. Fogs is on there. That's pretty cool.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, there's some decent games on there.
Yeah,
granted,
right, for sure.
I don't even think that this was the right answer for them. Like in terms of like it being this limited. Like they said, 50 games or something like that. Like there should be way more. It should have been Netflix.
Right?
Like and it would have been a loss leader for them for a long time. I think, but not nearly. Like, first of all, it's a much smaller risk for them because they're an established company that can afford to lose a few $1 billion a year, which they wouldn't even be in the red because they're making billions of dollars on other things every year. But yeah, like invest that money in acquiring talent and licenses, so the exclusive like content and timed exclusivity and all that stuff, and make it a membership play. Like acquire more users, paid users. And then find ways to further monetize that as time goes on, instead of trying to get the upfront like benefit of what console manufacturers have earned after either Sony or Microsoft doing the exact same thing, being loss leaders, and eventually earning the goodwill of people and then being able to profit off of it on the back end.
The thing with this too is like, so I was looking even more at the Stadia Pro games, and there's another wrinkle to it that I think is more is harder to tell. And I'm not totally sure this is the case, but I think you get to claim a certain amount of these games per month and
that's even worse.
But otherwise you can play any of them for 30 minutes or 60 minutes or whatever. So like you can basically demo.
So they're like any masterpieces in Super Smash Brothers Brawl.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Except you can only play those for like 5 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, basically that. Yeah. But like you can claim a couple of them. So here's the thing that's different too with this versus Game Pass is that with Game Pass, you know that Microsoft's first party games will perpetually be there. So if those are something that's interesting to you, then you don't have to worry about like a rotating cast of characters. You just know that like, oh, it's going to be, like I will forever be able to play Banjo-Kazooie, Master Chief stuff. Exactly. That kind of stuff. Horizon, or Forza Horizon, that kind of stuff. Yeah. In this case, there's no guarantee that outside of the games that you claim that any of these are just going to still be there. So like as a subscription, which I mean, granted, the same is true to some degree of Netflix or whatever. Like originally I loved watching The Office on there, Parks and Rec. Those aren't on there anymore, but Stranger Things will always be there. So like, again, having like first party things that are a guarantee, like this is going to be there is important, if nothing else. Yeah, no, there's not enough here. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's just not worth it, is really what I'd say. So yeah. It's not surprising that it's going away, but yeah, still kind of crazy that, yeah, for sure. And then it's like, I feel like it could have been thought through better, and it still seems just so weird that they spent so much money on certain aspects of it, but then weren't willing to take risks, like, which is so much of a risk, but then weren't willing to take risks on the other parts. And like you said, for it to be just a loss leader for a while, but then catch up, and all that.
And the thing about it is, like, this was less true when people were, speculating that it would die. We have what Stadia should be. Game Pass is literally what Stadia should be, and it still exists. And from everything that we've heard, is a successful venture for them. So like, it's not like we're just out on that type of model. It sounds like developers kind of are, because at the end of the day, like, they can't really test their games in like this virtual environment, because like, for all intents and purposes, to have a game on Game Pass, it has to be able to run on an Xbox or a PC. So like, you're still going to be like developing for that specific spec with that hardware. And I don't know if they like have a virtual client for developers, or if it is a thing that they need to specifically have like Xbox dev kits or a powerful enough PC to develop for. But it sounds like Stadia was different. Or Stadia did have that, like, that you could develop for different specs without necessarily being on that kind of hardware, because developers were able to develop from home. And I'm pretty sure not most studios are going to be like, yo, here's this freaking $20,000 rig, So I don't know, like, For consumers, this doesn't really matter that much, and in a way, it's kind of a W, because like, gamers got what they wanted to happen, and the Stadia users are going to get their money back, at least for the games that they purchased. I don't know how the membership, which I think it's kind of weird. Like, I know there's definitely going to be people that are going to want their membership refunded, but that's kind of weird, because I feel like you got your value from the membership those months, because you had it and it worked, So I don't know, man.
No, I'm totally with you there. And here's another thought too, is that going back to the whole Nintendo and Stadia thing, it is really interesting, because the like worst thing that Nintendo is doing right now is their cloud. Anytime there's a cloud game, it's just like, nobody's ever said it's run well, and like that, it's like it runs fine at best, it seems like. And so
I still want to test that at some
point,
because I don't believe it. I feel like and that could be true. That's not me like assuming that it's not. That's just me knowing the way that people are, especially with this issue, especially in this fan base specifically. Like, I'm almost positive that these people downloaded the game day one, as soon as it became available, tested it for like a few minutes, if not like an hour, saw it didn't run well, and then wrote their video, but like, by the nature of any online thing, whether it be like a wholly online product like this or just online multiplayer, that's the worst time to test anything online ever. So and also like whatever their different connection speeds are, and like whether or not their setup is suited for that in terms of like less interference and so on and so forth. I would want to test. I also do wonder for myself.
No, I'd be interested to find that out for sure. It sounds like I've heard people generally seem to compare it to other cloud services, and that like other ones seem to run fairly well, and the Switches isn't that reliable or whatever. What I'm curious about is, are each of the games that are they being run on the same servers, essentially? Not literally the same server, but like is Square with the Kingdom Hearts games figuring out their own solution for servers, and is
it like a Nintendo based
or exactly thing? Is it something that Nintendo has? Because like the one thing that Stadia had going for it, and GeForce Now, and xCloud and stuff, is that they're like working really hard to make sure that their servers, like that's their main
platform
thing. Exactly. So like that's something they're working really hard on. But like whatever Nintendo's using, whether it's Nintendo themselves doing it or the developers and like figuring it out for themselves, or publishers figuring it out for themselves or whatever, it's like an afterthought kind of a thing. So it could very well be that just like anything but top of the line servers at this point, again, I'm not using technical jargon or anything, I apologize, but anything but like the top of the line solution just falls short of the top of the line solutions or whatever. So like maybe it's just really that like xCloud and all that just are great examples of like really well done servers or something. So that would be interesting to find out. But I mean, I know that I don't care about playing any of those games in that way particularly.
That's the only reason why I don't even know. Because like it's not relevant to me. Like, first of all, I have those platforms, so that box is checked. But even more important to me is I usually don't care to play those games anyway. So
exactly.
If I do care to play the games, I'm just going to play them on the platform that they were developed for. But I usually don't, so I don't even have to think about that. So it's if I was in the situation of like I only have a Switch and I want to play these games, which I'm sure there's a lot of people in those situations, I would be more like there would be more of a reason for me to have firsthand experience with it. But I also kind of just want to test it just to be able to talk about it authoritatively, because like right now it's just me guessing based off of how I know people behave with these things. Just with my experience with like online multiplayer, like we know I'm
like with Splatoon 3 starting out and stuff.
Like I'm like that is a world that I'm steeped in. And I know how people react to that, and I know the variance there, because like there's definitely like Splatoon 3 definitely not as good, not nearly as Splatoon 2 or Splatoon 1 was. Like there's connection issues there, and they do need to fix that. But even that seems to have a fair amount of user error, or at the very least ISP error going on there, because there's situations like mine where it's like I can play for a while and I'll be with friends, and every once in a while it'll have a connection error, and that will disband the lobby, and then I got to start it back up, and then that's like a few seconds or whatever, right? But then you have examples like Tundix, who like literally can't even go into, or at one point or another, I'm sure it's improved since then. But like he sent me screenshots of him getting connection errors in like shops in the game. Like that's crazy. Like I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't even know that they necessarily used the servers for that. You know, like
at that point, I just uninstall and reinstall the game and see if there's something that like, because that's crazy.
I feel like it might be like a NAT type thing or some sort of port forwarding, or you know, there's definitely ways to further improve. That's why NAT types exist in the first place. You know, like that's basically like a thing of like how compatible is your connection. And if you're not a NAT type A, there's more you can do to make your connection more compatible for others. You know,
interesting. Yeah,
and I think that there's probably some of that happening there. But also it could just be a server thing, because again, the servers are definitely not perfect. And the patch that they did today, or that they're doing today, I don't know if it's live yet at the time of recording this, for people listening to the podcast after it's recorded live. I don't know if that completely fixed it or if it improved it at all. But yeah, like obviously there's connection errors there. I mean, connection problems there, but it's definitely not as bad as like people make it out to be. And I think that there's probably a lot of that in this situation too, where definitely it has been less than ideal, and people take less than ideal and make it catastrophic, you know, like,
yeah. It'd be interesting to find out. But there it is. Google Stadia, man. It's gone. Dude. January 29th. Yeah, I saw, who was it? Somebody was saying, and I don't remember who off the top of my head, was like, so should I buy some games just to get them? It might have been Alec, actually. Should I just buy some games now just to get them refunded? And honestly, maybe there's also rules about that.
Yeah, I was about to say, would that even work? Like, would they even do that if they announced that they're going to shut this down, and you're like, all right, bet I'm gonna like demo these games on Google Stadia or whatever, and then they're like, well, hey, we told you to cut off and you bought them anyway, so that dummy tax, you know, like I don't know how that's gonna work.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Now I'm trying to see, was it Pat? It might have been Patrick. Whatever, it doesn't matter. In any case, it was Patrick. Let's move on to the next topic. And it is just like a whole bunch of little Pokemon things, you know?
Pokemon things happening. I should have the freaking Wiglett. Should have pulled that up.
Should have. You still can. The time is nigh.
So let's talk about the other stuff before Wiglett. So
cool. Sounds good.
Can have it on the screen when we talk about that.
And all of our Q&A was Pokemon related, so we just pulled it all, and we're going to talk about it here instead of in the Q&A. So first up, let's do this one. New Nintendo survey asking interest in the various Pokemon games and spin-offs. In and of itself, not much of a thing, but I just thought, talk about if they brought back some more Pokemon spin-offs, which ones do we want them to bring back? The background for this, though, is that My Nintendo has, emails go out sometimes. They have little surveys sometimes. And in that one, they have a question that says, which kinds of Pokemon games would you like to play in the future? Please select all that apply. And they said a new game similar to Pokemon Go. No, I'm good. AJ, how do you feel about that one?
I'm over it. Pokemon Go, although it is like the format that seems to have feel the most versatile and be like, we can apply this to everything. To me, it is a one and done thing. It's like that format is Pokemon and Pokemon only, and everything else I don't care. So I don't care.
Fully agreed. Yeah, at this point, I'm not even playing Pokemon Go anymore. If I ever wanted to play Pokemon Go some more, I just play Pokemon Go some more. And I'm good with that. I have no desire to, at this point too, they have so many, I don't know, Pikmin Bloom and all that stuff. So it would have to be a very loose definition of a game similar to Pokemon Go. I don't see somewhere where they say, you know, mobile Pokemon game, but like if there's a completely different mobile Pokemon game that scratches a particular itch, maybe, but probably not.
I play Pokemon Go to varying levels at all times. Like at the very least, if I'm like out somewhere and I remember, I'll check my phone and be like, yo, is there like a gym here or something? And then there's other times where I'm like more active, where I'm like, yo, I gotta do my dailies and like that type of crap, right? So like, yeah, it's still like a relevant thing for me, at least. Yeah. But it's just not. It's not something that I'm trying to like. I wouldn't go out to play these things. And since it's already something that I'm like, if I remember, I'll do it. I'm not going to remember with multiple apps, so I'm not going to engage with multiple apps.
Yep. Fully agreed. The next one, they said, a new type of Pokemon adventure set in an open world that offers more freedom to choose what to do and where to go next, e.g. Pokemon Scarlet/Violet, which is just funny the way they phrase that, because it's like, it's just Scarlet and Violet, and like they're just promoting it in a survey form. So like, I don't understand why. I don't know. Doesn't matter. But like, obviously, yeah, we want to play that. That'd be great. And we're going to in like a month and a half. So there it is. I'm going to skip over the spin-off one because I want to talk about that more. A new adventure similar to traditional Pokemon games with a set path through the world and linear story, e.g. Pokemon Sword and Shield, Pokemon Red and Blue. Interesting.
Cringe.
Yeah, no thanks. I'm good. We've got enough of those.
Yeah.
I mean, unless the linear story is a cool one and it's like,
not cringe.
If they made... So... If it's if it's just specifically a single player game in the Pokemon world that's like, I mean, you know, it's a single player Pokemon game that has no multiplayer stuff or whatever, then like I could see something cool happening there. You know, like, I mean, Coliseum or whatever. Like,
I don't want that. I just don't want that because I know that they're barely able to keep up with the thing that they currently make. And for them to divide their efforts further for a diluted version of what they're already making seems dumb to me. Now, if it's going to be like another platform play, like if they're like Bob has wanted for forever for them to just put older Pokemon games on mobile, like stuff like that, sure, I'm down for that. But if you're going to make new content, make your existing content better. Like Grand Theft Auto, Rockstar isn't like, all right, let's make a linear Grand Theft Auto now. You guys like Grand Theft Auto DLC? We'll make a Grand Theft Auto game that's conducive to that. No, they're going to put all their eggs in their mega Grand Theft Auto 6 basket, and that's what Pokemon should do.
Yep. I think, the only way that I'd want this is if it was handed off to a different developer completely, just so that it had nothing to do with them. And they were like, hey, Monolith Soft, y'all done doing some Xenoblade for now? Just like make a Pokemon game or whatever. But like, it's pre-existing Pokemon, you know, that kind of a thing.
Even that though, I wouldn't even want it to be like Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl levels of like, here's Junichi Masuda. Borrow him for a little bit. No, not even that. Just literally, hey, remake this thing. You know, like, and if you need some tips, here's some Nintendo SPD employees. You know, like,
yeah. I think especially with them using Pokemon Sword and Shield and Pokemon Red and Blue as the examples, there, like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, nah, just
on that front because we got those ones. You know.
Better. Yeah,
indeed. The next option was a remake/remaster of traditional Pokemon game, e.g. Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire.
It's funny. It's funny that they put them in the same category. I know, because Pokemon fans do not feel that way. But
I mean, if they put like Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee in here, like I'd be fine doing a Let's Go Johto. Yeah. Like that'd be fun. But you know.
I think
it is what it is. These ones, nah.
Stuff like that. Both of these things, like the linear version or whatever. Like I want forward momentum. Period. So like, Let's Go. I'm fine with that game in the way that it existing because it contributed to forward momentum. I don't want them to be like, hey, remember this thing, or here's this smaller experience. I don't want that. I want them to like at least like it's a test bed for something. It's not like its own formula with its own set of like arbitrary preconceived expectations. I want them to be like, hey, here's this cool new thing that like we don't want to put a lot of risk behind. You like it? All right, bet we'll incorporate it in the next thing, rather than like, all right, new formula to get tired of.
Yeah, right. Especially
get
in
ready
like
for 20 more years of Legends Arceus since you liked it the first time. You know, it's like, I don't need that.
Way that I skipped over existing spin-off series, but like with them splitting off spin-off series and this other things, like obviously to them, you know, these are part of the mainline Pokemon thing because they are, you know, Sword and Shield, Red and Blue, Brilliant Diamond, Shiny Pearl, all that stuff. And so like, yeah, as far as mainline Pokemon stuff, I want to see them evolve and then like use spin-off series to do fun, different stuff.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's how I feel about that. So within the spin-off series thing, are there any particular ones that you would like to see come back as AJ?
Pokemon Stadium. And a big part of that is because I want them to nuke the existing battle system and use Pokemon Stadium as a way to
keep it going for it,
fossilize it. Like, to be like, this is dead now, but like we know some of you still like it, so like we'll kind of keep it up to date and like put new Pokemon in it and let you like battle in this like retro era, you know. I think that would be neat. And honestly, even if they don't do that, it's just people already really enjoy Pokemon Showdown, so why not just do an official version of that?
Yeah, exactly.
And make it look better and do the whole Pokemon Stadium announcer guy and put some mini games in there if you want. Like, do the whole thing. I think Pokemon Stadium would be cool. And plus, it's relatively low impact, and again, even that can contribute to forward momentum because it's like we need really good looking renders for these Pokemon and animations, so they can develop them for that and then reuse those animations and Pokemon models in future Pokemon.
That's the part I was going to say too. Is just like at this point they started from scratch going into Sword and Shield and all that, but now they have stuff that they can keep using, and so they've already got most of the Pokemon. Like I don't know where we're at this point in terms of I
don't know how many, like if there's like there's probably some sort of like archive of like Pokemon that have never been brought to the modern HD era, you know, like but I don't know.
So I mean, I'll be curious. Do we know in if the national decks will be coming back in Scarlet and Violet? Have they talked about that at all? Like because right now, you know, you can't bring every Pokemon to Sword and Shield, right? Right. Like even though
same thing for Brilliant Diamond, Shiny Pearl. Same thing for every Pokemon game. but
So like, I wonder if at some point they're planning on bringing it to where like, you know, obviously you can't catch every single Pokemon within a specific game, but you could trade them in or something like that. Right. Once all the models are done and all that stuff. Like, but I don't even know if that would be by this point or not. But yes, again, Stadium would be a perfect place to do that. So I'm totally agreed on that front.
I don't know. I feel like it seems like they just learned their lesson from that. Because like every Pokemon game since Sword and Shield also had limited Pokedexes. But they didn't say anything about it.
Right.
So it's like, that's just a thing, you know, like people expected that with Brilliant Diamond, Shine and Pearl because it's a remake. But obviously those even have more Pokemon than Diamond and Pearl, or Pokemon that weren't in those games, you know, but they're in this one. But they didn't feel the need to be like, here's the ones that are and aren't. And then for Arceus, that has for Pokemon standards, a severely limited Pokedex, but they didn't feel the need to call attention to that because who cares? You know, like you only care if you're told to care. It's like,
and at this point, they've ripped the Band-Aid off, so it's like just, you know, the expectation is that who's to say, and then from there you're good to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I hope they don't say.
Yeah. Now, honestly, I'd be surprised if they did. Like, I feel like they just won't.
Alex said the last games on the console typically have all Pokemon coded in. Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, you could transfer it all months.
Gotcha. Sense. So I guess we'll see. Maybe by the end of Scarlet and Violet, like, you know, if they do a DLC or whatever, like maybe at that point. But yeah,
what's the third? What's that?
Scarlet Violet. Let's see, color wheel opposites. No, get out of here. I don't want to buy a rug of it. Scarlet-ish, violet-ish. I think green of some sort is like.
I was more so talking about the like what they would call it.
But I'm just looking at a color wheel, and like orange is kind of at 2:00, so like kind of a scarlet-ish. Violet is down at like a 5 green, or 6.
Like green checks out. But like what would it be
But what would they call it? Yeah. So that's what what's fancy words for green? Green color.
They would not call it chartreuse.
Ooh, I hope they do.
Oh my god.
I don't know any fancy words for green. Yeah. I'm gonna go chartreuse. I'm totally here with olive. Oh, that'd be so good.
Oh
Pickle.
God.
Pickle green.
Smallest, they just go full snake eats its tail. But no.
They just call it Emerald again.
Or they just
Emerald 2.
They just bring back Ultra again.
Sage. How about
Ultra
Sage?
Scarlet and Ultra Violet, which Ultra Violet makes way more sense.
Oh man, that's so good. Yeah.
Ultra Scarlet is not.
What about Infra Scarlet? It's like infrared. Yeah. Oh, that's true. Why wouldn't they just do the DLC route again?
Yeah, they would. But I'm just saying,
you're so right.
For what Alec is saying, the third game having every Pokemon. I don't know if they would do every Pokemon for DLC.
Yep.
You know?
Who's to say? I mean, they did add in a bunch with the Crown Tundra and all that stuff. It was like 200 or something.
Yeah, but they got to add in like...
Yeah,
I don't know how many Pokemon are in this game. But let's assume that there's 500 instead of 400. Then they got to add in 500 Pokemon, you know? Like,
yeah.
And I don't know if that's DLC worthy, unless the DLC is $40.
True.
Or more, honestly.
So that's, good answer. Pokemon Stadium as one of the spinoffs. I'm just looking at a list of spinoffs here. And, okay, so, I mean... I'll talk about it when I do my games I've been playing, but I've been playing a bunch of Pokemon Snap, and I wouldn't mind that game to keep going, but there is something to be said for like it's a nice like every once in a while kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't really want it to be like a particularly regular thing, so I'm gonna say like we're good for a decade, and then bring it back in 10 years or whatever.
I think Pokemon Snap should be like a visual checkpoint for them.
Yeah.
So like, if there's some sort of like marked improvement in visuals from Switch to Swap, they should put one on the Swap.
Yeah. And I think we could have gotten a bunch between the N64. There could have easily been a Wii one that looked quite nice, even a GameCube one that looked quite nice. And then obviously Wii U could have looked almost as good as Pokemon Snap.
Yeah, right.
I mean, new Pokemon Snap if they tried. But yeah, I'm here for that.
Yeah. But if the swap is 4K, that's big enough. That's a big enough deal, and then they probably get to do that again if they do 8K, and then like VR, like there's a few like justifiable reasons to be like Pokemon Snap again. But it's definitely not the type of game that I think that they should like make Splatoon. We're just like, there's a new one because there's a new one. Buy it.
Yeah. But yeah, otherwise, let's see some of the other ones. Just gonna read through a couple. There's the Pokepark series, the trading card game series, the puzzle series, pinball series, Mystery Dungeon, Ranger, some others. Any of those ones stand out as ones that you'd particularly want? I've never played Pokemon Ranger, but
I like Ranger. I like Mystery Dungeon. I think that like they could definitely improve Mystery Dungeon though, and double down on like it being a multiplayer thing, because it's kind of multiplayer a little bit. Where it's like save your friends, but they could do more to improve on that. And also add every Pokemon to that game, because for every Pokemon in the game, content, you know.
True.
More than most Pokemon things, honestly. So that Pokemon Rangers, I just think it's neat. I think that Pokemon Rangers is dope because of like it was the closest thing to like Pokemon that made sense. In terms of like their abilities and stuff, where it's like, oh crap, there's a fallen tree here and I don't know how to get through it. Oh wait, I have combustion, burn the tree. You know, that sort of stuff was neat. But like, if we get that in regular Pokemon games, I'm not so sure there's a reason for it to exist.
Right.
Like, especially since they don't really have the whole, I mean, they could do the thing where it's like on Switch, right? If you're playing handheld, use the touchscreen to do the thing. And if you're playing on like docked, you use your Joy-Con or like an analog stick if you want to be boring. But yeah, they could totally do that.
I do love to be boring for what it's worth. So yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, they could do that.
Yeah.
Although it does, like, Pokemon Rangers, for me anyway, I don't know if this is the case for anybody else, it feels very linked to them also having a presence in, like, other media. Like, they had the Pokemon Ranger movie and, like, the specials and stuff like that. So, like, if they're going to do that, then they should also do special.
Yeah. I think as I'm thinking about this, like, yeah, with Pokemon Ranger and all that stuff, I think what I'd like is just to continue doing Pokemon spin-offs like Pokemon Snap and whatever that don't become live service games of some sort. Because like at this point, whenever we get a Pokemon Direct or Pokemon Presents or whatever, you know, we'll get something for Pokemon Masters, we'll get something for Pokemon Go, we'll get something for Cafe Mix, we'll get something for Pokemon Unite, like, which is all great for the people that are playing those, but like, I don't know, it's just fun, like the times that we do see new Pokemon Snap show up, or the times that we see Pokemon Mystery Dungeon show up, or whatever, like that's just nice to have those pop up and just be like events, you know, things that like, it'll get an update maybe at some point. You know, there was technically some DLC for new Pokemon Snap, but then that was it. You know, it's just like a game that came and went and is there. Tell me more.
I think that
I mean, besides Pokemon Stadium, I'm here for that. Well, okay. I'll take back what I.
Yeah, that is exactly what I'm getting at, right? Where I think you would be okay with Pokemon Stadium because it's a live service game that you feel like you would engage with. Because it's like, oh, there's more Pokemon in Pokemon Stadium, and I have fun with Pokemon Stadium. That would be a live service update. But like, you're not playing Pokemon Unite. And nobody's I'm not playing Pokemon Unite, and nobody's playing freaking Cafe Mix that's listening to the show, you know. So that feels like more stuff that I'm not interested in. But that goes back to the general criticism of like Nintendo Directs of like, you showed me too many things, and many of those things are things that I am not personally interested in. Like them having more things to talk about does not preclude us from getting new things.
True. You know? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So like,
I think that's what I'm more getting at, is that just that they just keep doing new things every once in a while, you know, because that's like right now, the last Pokemon Presents we had was all pre-existing things and some Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which we, you know, we knew about, but we got to see a bunch more. And so like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet stuff was fun, but everything else being pre-existing was like, okay, you know,
but I think that the opposite would happen though. Like if they had more things that were live service, it would just mean that there's more things all the time. Whereas now it's like, we don't have anything to talk about. So everything we're going to talk about is stuff you already know. Whereas if they did have more games that were like kept alive for a long time, it would be like, here's new stuff for things that people are still playing. And then also there's still that one or two new games that we usually would have at another event, you know, which I'm fine with, you know, like I will never say no to more content. The only way that more content is bad is if the content or the people that are making the content would be better used elsewhere. And I don't think that would be the case for stuff like this.
Especially when they get, Bandai Namco did new Pokemon Snap. So obviously Pokemon was involved in it, but like they just got another team to do it. So it's just a question of them making the financial risk of doing that, which I want them to do. RP asks, is there a Pokemon game where they were shaped as Minecraft figures? I think you're thinking of Pokemon Quest.
Yeah, Pokemon Quest. And
I played that longer than I should have because it wasn't that fun.
Product provided by Nintendo. I played that for a little bit. It was neat. But like
I think I just got up to the point. It was like free to start, right? You could get up to a certain point and then you had to pay $10 to keep going or something like, I think, something like that.
I don't remember how the monetization, because here's the perils of influencer marketing, especially with pay to play games, is to market the game. They usually give you some amount of currency to play the video game. So my experience playing the video game is not the same as somebody that just got the game for free and decided whether or not they wanted to spend money on it. I had money from jump that I could use on playing the game and getting upgrades or whatever the case may be. So can't really speak to that. And also it was been a long time. So I don't even like that was what freaking 2018. I don't remember playing that game. And what I do remember though is by the time, because I was like, I remember talking to Bob about this of like, yo, I would like play this more and be more willing to play this if it was on my phone. But it like launched on Switch first. So I was like, and then by the time it came on my phone, I'm like, I don't care about this game anymore. so like, that was kind of a miss too, where it was like, I think like as gamers, TM, people just want every game that's a game that they want to, that they're even vaguely interested in, to be on their consoles rather than their phone. But I do think some experiences are better suited to just picking it up when you're waiting on the bus or something.
100%.
And you're like, I got 5 minutes to kill, and that was one of them. But yeah,
true. There it is. Yeah. And there's like Pokemon Conquest and Pokemon Coliseum and some other ones. Like, it would be fun to see a bunch of these things come back. So hopefully that happens. But in the meantime, we're getting Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And with that, Wiglett, which is the big old topic for today. I mean, it's not the biggest topic. It's just I looked up a garden eel just to have an idea. And now I get it. Like, it's just seeing Wiglett move around and be a Pokemon felt very silly. And then I looked up a garden eel and I was like, okay, I see what we're going for. Like, that's kind of how a real one is, except for it looks more like a weird naked mole kind of thing. So
it's true. Or friggin' game theory will call it a worm, which I'm still angry about.
Yeah. So there we go. We're getting Wiglett. What do you think? And so on and so forth.
I think he looks dumb. I wonder if we're going to get a Wug trio or a Wig trio. But also maybe not, because they're like the same Pokemon that's not the same Pokemon. Which I think has its own interesting implications. Because like that exists in the real world. Like there's animal, like even freaking what's it called? Grafai, right? Like Grafai is an eye, which like is a monkey kinda, but not really. It's kind of like that sort of situation where it's like this is a Diglett, but not a Diglett, but not,
Yeah.
And I wonder if they're going to play around with the idea, and they kind of like hint at it a little bit. Or not necessarily hint at it, but they kind of like illustrate what I'm speculating about, of like the Pokemon being like, I look like a Pokemon that you'd usually think is safe for you, but I'm not. Like they're fighting the Bonsly, and it's like the Bonsly, like it's freaking. I mean, it's still weak to ground or whatever because it's a rock type Pokemon, but it looks like a grass type Pokemon. So it's like, this thing's not going to try to attack me, man. and it'll be fine or whatever. But now the Wiglet's like, I'm water, fool. So you can't hurt me either. So it's like, but I mean, in that example, if it's grass, it would still think that it could hurt it. But you know what I'm saying, man, if it knows it's a rock type Pokemon, it's like the rock type Pokemon have ground type attacks and blah 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 blah.
It's true. But yeah, it is funny. Well, here we'll get into some of these questions from the Q&A because I think they'll help shape the conversation a little bit. Big Man asks, fine, I'll ask the question. With Wiglett, our Pokemon Company being lazy with the designs? No. I personally hope that it's more of an environmental evolution than anything else, not Diglett just evolving, which is a pretty cool idea, a lot like regional evolution.
I mean, it's pretty clear that Diglett does not evolve into this thing.
Right.
That is,
I think,
pretty obvious to me.
Yeah. The thing is, they could have, like, looking at garden eels, they could have done something that looked more like a garden eel and probably would have looked better for it. But instead, they chose to go the, like, a play on Diglett direction, which is interesting.
I think,
and more marketable.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that it definitely is more marketable, but I also think that this is in its own way more interesting than just another Pokemon that's a garden eel. Because then it's like, okay, well, they could have just made this a Paldean form. They could have done that, but they intentionally did not. Why? You know? Yeah. And that to me is interesting. And it opens up the door for them to play with that even more, where it's like, okay, we have, again, this established new formula that people like a lot, which is these regional forms. But even further than that, now we have Pokemon that are similar, but they're not regional forms. Why?
Yeah. As far as it being lazy or not, like it isn't, because they could have just done something, like they had to make this specific choice. Like, no, we're going to keep with this thing, even though it looks less like the actual animal. And, you know, like, yeah, it's weird. Like, I agree with just like in terms of the reasoning behind it. Like, I'll be really interested to see the evolution. And I feel like that might, if there is an evolution at all, I guess, that might kind of explain it retroactively some. But I don't know. Yeah, they literally just were like, no, we're gonna choose to make this be the same Pokemon, but not the same Pokemon. Yeah, which is bizarre. I mean, to skip a question real quick. I'm trying to decide which order. Yeah, Let asks, is Wiglett's design lazy or genius?
I think genius. Personally.
Yeah.
Because like if they wanted to be lazy, they could. It's not hard for them to be lazy.
They could give it a little snake face, give it some dots.
At this point, they could literally just say, here's all the Pokemon. There's 1,000 Pokemon. We're done. We're not making any more. Now all we're doing is we're making the world bigger. We're putting new gym leaders and we're adding new attacks. They could do that. But they're not, and they're giving us new Pokemon, and they're changing the rules on what makes a new Pokemon. And I think that in its own way, that's interesting. I want to see how they're going to play with that.
Yeah. I mean, and again, the marketability should not be understated. Like, they knew that this would have conversation around it, and that's something, you know?
Which, like, I don't even think, like, I feel like a lot of people use that as a slight. Like, even us with the first two Pokemon, of them being like, well, these are like, or not first three, Palmy and Smoliv and all that stuff, right?
Smoliv.
They want their Pokemon to be marketable. Every Pokemon that they have ever made, they want it to be marketable. Outside of the original games when they thought that it was just going to be a quirky JRPG, you know, but like they redesigned them because they wanted them to be marketable. So like it's not like anything changed there. They just have a set design language.
Yeah.
And that's fine in my opinion.
True. Sardi asks, along the same lines from a casual Pokemon fan, with Wiglett being a copy and paste of a real garden eels, which not really, but Yeah. Can you think of other instances where the Pokemon Company were just as lazy and whether it was more or less forgivable? So yeah, I think the interesting thing here is that it's
the entirety of Generation 1.
Pretty much. Yeah. Which it is just, but I mean, yeah, they were just trying to come up with stuff, and
just a cat. Spearow is just a bird. Fearow is just a bird. Pidgey is just a bird. Rattata is just a purple rat. Raticate is just a rat. Execute is just a group of eggs. The Pokemon that people claim to love the most are quote unquote lazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody's favorite Pokemon is going to be Wiglett.
I was thinking, I wonder if there's any Pokemon, I feel like we'll say like every Pokemon somebody's favorite. I wonder if there's any just middle of the road Pokemon that just aren't.
Just a racist. Facts. True.
Yeah, true. So yeah, that stuff. No, yeah, I mean, I think it is interesting because like Wiglett could be even more a copy paste, eventually isn't, but is obviously a play on them, like for sure. So, but yeah, plenty of stuff in Gen 1 that's just, I mean, probably other gens too. I feel like less and less so, but especially Gen 1 is.
People ping pong on what makes them angry about a Pokemon's design. Either it's too out of left field and not close enough to being just a bird, or it's just a bird, but not just a bird that they fell in love with when they were 8. It's like, oh my god, dude, play the game or do not. There's more pressing and like consistent things to criticize than to criticize them for doing the thing that you fell in love with them for in the first place. Like, if you loved freaking Geodude, I don't want to hear stuff about like this Pokemon's literally just X, because Geodude is just a rock man. His name is Rock Man, basically.
Yep, he's meant.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that stuff. Other question by Let. Also, this is just generally Pokemon, so I just stuck it in here too. Also, Grimhane said something Stadia was doing from day one. And I forgot to put that in the Stadia conversation. But yep, you got it. Yep. Pretty much. Let asked also, if you are a gym leader and had to use one type of Pokemon, what type would it be and why?
Dragon, because they are Pog.
And they generally look cool, so like that's a nice thing too.
That's why I said they're Pog, because they look cool. Yeah. But also they're kind of broken. They have freaking 3 weeks. Like if you don't got a fairy, a dragon, or an ice type, they're probably getting wrecked, dude. And like even if you have an ice type, because ice is just kind of not good.
Yeah. True. Dragon makes sense.
And I would have Charizard because he's a dragon. Not a dragon type, but he is a dragon.
Yeah, works out. Just mega evolve him, and then you're good to go.
And then he is a dragon. Yeah. But,
maybe you can terrastalize or Terra, whatever.
Yeah. If they don't put Charizard and Scarlet and Violet and do that, they freaking solved.
Yeah. Seriously. I mean, he will have a silly dragon hat on at that point, which will be.
Yeah, like
it will be grand.
Why wouldn't you do that? Like what?
I think, for my answer, I mean, the easy answer is water. Probably water type is the real answer. Second place, maybe psychic. I don't know. I've always liked psychic Pokemon. I think they're neat. But probably just water, just because that's what I end up making a lot of my. I think just because water was really. I don't think
I said except for Jinx. Jinx is cringe.
True. Yes. I think water. Gen 1 was the one that I just played the most for. I mean, in general, and water was pretty broken throughout that game. I don't know about broken, but just like. Yeah, kind of. You know, it was very useful. So that was nice. So I just had a lot of water Pokemon, and I liked them a lot. So I think that's kind of just stuck. But yeah, second up, maybe Psychic. Dark's pretty cool though too. So we'll go for those.
I don't have a second type. Just Dragon.
Nice.
Dragon. Dragon's probably the only type that I'm like, this type is cool. Every other type, I'm like, I have this type because it's useful. You know, like I'm not like, yo, I need a fire type Pokemon or else my team will be bad. But I usually am like, yo, I need a dragon Pokemon. so
still so much of that for me is it is based out of the things that I thought in playing Gen 1, which is just so silly that like, because in Gen 1, fire was kind of useless. Not useless, but like kind of. You just really didn't need it on your team because there's no steel yet. You know, there's not that much ice Pokemon and stuff like that. So fire just wasn't that useful. So in my mind, fire is just not a particularly useful type, even though that's obviously dumb because like you need it for steel because steel is strong and stuff.
Steel is very good.
Yeah. So, but it's, you know, which obviously that's why they brought steel along in the first place. After that, and you know why but I think if I were to default make my team a certain way without thinking too much about it, I would make it in a way that worked well for Gen 1 and then probably would do not well at all and would not be particularly balanced for later gens.
Yeah. For most part, I don't even think about typing in that way. Even that, like usually with the dragon thing, I'm like, I need a dragon because dragons are busted. But for the most part, I'm just like, there's two typing related. One typing related question that comes to mind. First and foremost, I get my team based off of what Pokemon looks cool. I'm like, this Pokemon looks cool or cute.
Yeah.
And I want that Pokemon on my team. And then I'm like, okay, I have these Pokemon on my team. What's my spread here? Do I have too many of this type? Is there a huge weakness to a given type? Do I need to add something to make up for that? And that is my team building process. I don't really think about I don't think about teams offensively so much as I think of them defensively. I'm like, okay, I have too much of this. I'm going to get blown up for that. Let me get a type that will make up for it, you know?
Yep. No, that makes sense. I think I realize I don't often put, that's not true. I don't often put legendaries on my team is what I was about to say, but that's not true because I'll have Zapdos on my team or whatever because I like Zapdos. But yeah, just thinking about like, I mean, playing Sword and Shield and Eternatus, right? Yeah. Also, Eternatus just kind of sucks and looks weird.
He's like, gun.
I don't like him at all. He's gun? What do you mean?
He's a gun. He's like a rail gun.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
Laser boy.
I guess so. To me,
he just made a Pokemon gun. It would be Eternatus.
Yep, I can see that. Yeah, what a time.
I don't like him though. He's don't like him.
Yeah. Yes, very much so. It feels just like a bunch of shapes, you know? And like I don't really want a Pokemon just to be a bunch of shapes. But... I mean, yes, but like this feels like that's all it is. Like they didn't bother to put in just the last little bit that's like, it went from a bunch of shapes to a character, you know. This doesn't feel like a character at all.
I disagree. But Alex said not personality for a Digimon.
It feels like a boss, you know. I'll put it that way. Like it feels like a boss in a JRPG or whatever, you know. But like a creature as opposed to a animal kind of thing, you know, where like Pokemon usually.
but fair enough.
I don't know. Like it feels like a monster, not a creature. Maybe that's better, you know. Whereas obviously Pokemon are monsters in the traditional in that sense, but
a monster, not a Pokemon. It's just like the Justin thing of how Justin calls Pokemon monsters, and it makes my skin crawl every time.
That's funny. Yeah. I mean, again, you know, technically monsters, whatever, but no, I don't think of them as actual monsters in any way. And to the last Pokemon topic, Kate asked us to talk about this. She said, and we were going to probably anyway, so perfect. would love to see your guys' thoughts on this next week, particularly AJ, since I know he plays a lot of Nuzlocke. Apparently, according to Kit and Krista, the Pokemon Company hates when people play Nuzlocke and considers them to be on the same level with hacking and ROM hacks. LOL, OL.
All right, before we get into this, I want to address Rise. He said, but they're Pocket Monsters. I don't care. Pocket Monsters was an initial marketing thing that they're like, okay, what do we call our video game? And then they grew into their own thing. Do you hear Pokemon ever refer to Pokemon as Pocket Monsters officially? Ever in the year of our Lord 2022? No, because they're now their own entity. They're now Pokemon. It's like how IGN at one point in time stood for something, and now it's just IGN, you know? Very similar.
What did it stand for? I think I knew that at some point.
I think it's like Imagine
International
Gaming.
It's like Imagine Gaming Network. Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't matter because it's just IGN. Nobody freaking calls it Imagine Gaming Network.
That was like, we found out that like pretty recently I saw a thing that Sega stood for like...
service games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because names matter in the beginning. But it just comes to a certain point where your name doesn't matter anymore. Like, who cares? You know? But
yeah, so what if you're called Fanatics for it? You know,
exactly. But we didn't get to that point where it didn't matter anymore. It was actively hurting us. But for them, it's like they're already like this known quantity. You know, like where else you gonna go for your freaking very like sanitized gaming news? You gotta go to IGN.
Yeah, gotta go to Sega.
Yeah, exactly. It's freaking gotta get Sonic somewhere, man. And Altered Beast. But yeah, the Kit and Krista Nuzlocke thing. This annoys me.
So apparently there was, I didn't realize this until I went looking for the article, but there was an update 2 days later that in a statement mimicking its response to Joe Merrick, the Pokemon Company has doubled down on its stance regarding Nuzlocke runs, stating to Eurogamer that the Pokemon Company International does not have any issues with fans or creators playing the video games with Nuzlocke rules. As mentioned in the original article, the Pokemon Company statement perhaps indicates that it had more of an issue promoting the Nuzlocke challenge in an official capacity rather than taking it down as a concept. So there you go.
And this is where my problem comes in. All right, I said I was on the Beanscast and I talked about this. I want to make it clear. I have no pride. In fact, I like King Krista a lot. I really like the stuff that they make. But I do think that there's a problem with their brand in the sense that whether they mean to or not, they kind of are like this poster child for being like, we used to be on Nintendo, but we got out. And now we're one of you, you know? So we can think like you now. And there's like certain stances that like feel like they're very on the side of Nintendo in some ways in that regard, and some where they're like bucking, you know? Like Smash Brothers is an example of like, I had to play nice with the people like Evo, and I didn't want like Kit specifically, and I didn't want to do that because I think Smash Brothers should be played however, you know, like casually or whatever. And I think that competitive Smash is cringe or whatever, right? I think that obviously I think that's an L take. And in this situation, it's the opposite end of that, where on the marketing end, they're like, you're trying to be too much of marketers. We don't like that. And I think that it's common sense to me, at least, that like, of course not, Pokemon Company wouldn't want their official publisher using their marketing channels to be like, hey, everybody, play this fun mode where Pokemon die. You know, like what? Like, it's one thing for them to like work with an outlet like ours, who I've done Nuzlockes, and we've worked with a Pokemon Company multiple times at this point, and still like I have correspondence with them and could reach out for them with them if I'm like, oh, cards or whatever, right? And I do Nuzlockes. That has never been a problem. They have approached me in part because of videos that I've made about those things, you know, of like, yo, we should incorporate rules like that, and blah blah blah. So it's always been clear to me that they never had a problem with that. Obviously they didn't, but they do have a problem with their marketing arm being like, yeah, kill Pokemon. And on top of that, there's this other part of it that most Nuzlocke that you will see people do on twitch.tv and youtube.com are not official products. They're ROM hacks. They're, you know, the emulators. They're like, you're not playing on your 3DS capture card or whatever, right? Like, these are
when
people
it's like Pokemon, but but you never gain levels or whatever, like those kinds of things. It's like, to be able to do those, do those challenges, it needs to be modded, and
it needs to be modded, and more often than not, it is ill-gotten gains, you know? It's people downloading ROMs. Whether or not you own the game is a whole nother thing, because that is a legal gray area, and Japan is very like more so than with anything else with software, they're very bullish on like piracy in terms of, because they value software a lot. So like, you illegally downloading the video game is also something that they don't want to like even passively promote, because when most people think Nuzlocke, they think of stuff like the Ludlock, you know, like freaking like what the platinum ROM hacks and stuff like, and like putting newer Pokemon into older games and that sort of stuff. That stuff is not done with the video game that you bought officially, you know, like most people that are doing that illegally download the game, and they don't want to promote that either, you know, which I think is understandable. Hot take, I suppose.
And I mean, and I could see where the confusion there too would be like, the Pokemon Company stated the Nuzlocke challenge is on the same level as a hacker ROM. Like, it could be. I mean, it sounds like it's been a minute since then. It's also been 2 weeks now since I've listened to their quote on it, but like, maybe also that's not exactly what they said, and I like obviously conflated the two or something like that. I don't know. It would be interesting if they like, hey, okay, well, can we at least do like a challenge run, like, you know, single Pokemon challenge run or something along those lines, that's not specifically a Nuzlocke, so that's not like Pokemon are dying and all that, but it was just like playing the game in a different way, and then what Pokemon Company would have said to an officially promoted version of that. But even then, I mean, it's possible wouldn't specifically want to do that, because they're like, I don't know, we kind of want people to, you know, they can find that anywhere else, but you know, we'd rather them just play the game the normal way.
It would make sense to me, for the same reason that it makes sense to me that Nintendo, when initially marketing Smash Brothers Ultimate, they had tournaments with items on, right? That makes sense to me, because they want to showcase the whole of their game. They want to be like, okay, these people are really good at playing this game, and they're professionals, and they make a living doing it. But like, you could play it too, and it's nice and fun and random sometimes, you know. That makes sense to me. It also makes sense to me that Pokemon Company is like, yo, you're marketing our game that just came out. We want you to just play the game the way it's supposed to be played, you know. And then like, if it's 2 years down the line or whatever, and they're like, yeah, okay, we want to do a Pokemon thing that's fun, because people are still buying the game and people are still interested in the game. But now that it's been out for a while and people understand like the vision for this game, let's flip it on its head a little bit. I think that would also be received better, you know, from Pokemon Company, than to like from jump like likely early on, you know, in the process of like, the game's not out yet, it's a month away or whatever, we're gonna Nuzlocke, you know, like what? I don't know, man.
It's silly stuff. And I mean, hopefully maybe we'll even see some like modes or something like that in Sword and Shield, not Sword and Shield, Scarlet and Violet. I doubt it, but like,
that's not gonna happen. But
you know, one of these days.
I don't think we necessarily need a Nuzlocke mode, because it's not hard to just do that on your own.
Right. But, I don't think, not a specifically Nuzlocke mode. I think that would be silly regardless, just because like, like you said, you can do that on your own. And like, also there's something to be said for like, there's some games that, like I played a game called Ascension. That's a card game. And I played it in person. And then I also played it, on a phone app or whatever. And actually, better example of that is Xenoshift. So same kind of thing. Played the card game in person, but then also played it on the phone app. And there were so many things that like I would click a thing and be like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Oh, sorry. But it's like too late and you can't take back a thing. Whereas if you do it in person, then you can like take something back. So similarly with Nuzlockes, if you do something just slightly wrong, and I don't know, you can always just do a little bit of take backsies if you need to. If it wasn't like, you know, you made a actual, I don't know the example. Doesn't really matter. Long story short, you can do whatever you want. But if it's like hard coded into the game to like, if this one thing happens, then this other thing happens, you know, you accidentally catch a Pidgey again, you know, at the, in a different route or something like that, which you shouldn't have been. Now you're locked off. Then like, it just makes it less fun to have it be that restrictive. So I think it would be cool if they implemented some sort of challenge, something or other, a little bit, but specifically Nuzlocke, I feel like just like do your own thing and it'll be fine.
I think the
rules are
ideal
straightforward
destination for Pokemon in terms of difficulty settings is that it's like Uncharted or like any other game that like notices, oh, you're good or bad at this game. We're going to, in the background, adjust what we throw at you. I think that is the best case scenario. But all this like heavy-handed, your Pokemon dies, or we're gonna like arbitrarily randomize. That's the like, even if there was an official way to do randomizers, I would never do it because I think that they are dumb. I think that it really shows no skill. It's just all a dice roll. Everything about it is a dice roll because it doesn't make you any better of a Pokemon player that you ran into a level 3 Arceus and you had your level 20 insert Pokemon here and beat the Arceus because the Arceus was level 3. And on the other end, it doesn't make you any worse because the first gym leader you ran into had a Mewtwo. You know, like it's just numbers. They're just throwing random numbers at you. That doesn't make the game any actually harder. Like, it feels harder because it's like, oh, I lost. But you couldn't really do anything about it.
Yeah.
You just drew the wrong hand. Oh, well. You know, like... So, like, even if they did that officially, I wouldn't engage with it. But...
Yeah, I feel like you said, changing things in the background, like just making the AI better or worse, you know, or just letting them have more Pokemon sometimes, or if you like those kinds of things, have, you know, some kind of sliders going on in the background, would be nice. Or even, I mean, even if it's a setting that you choose on the front ends, like I'm fine with that as something instead where, you know, all of a sudden, I mean, again, it will just be math. So it's like, all right, instead Brock has 3 Pokemon now, you know, so instead of just having 2, so then you'll just have to contend with that instead. But still, that'll put you, that as opposed to levels being different or whatever, does change the scenario a little bit to where now you have to think a bit differently about it because, like, you know, which Pokemon do you do something? I don't know. But certain things like that could be neat, but, you know, it is what it is. We'll see how it pans out. As long as the game's fun, that's really what I care about the most. And while we're talking about fun games, what games are you playing?
Am I playing? Oh no, I did the thing. I pressed it. You got another intro, everybody. Congrats.
Jackpot.
Freaking. Am I playing anything? I'm playing Smash, obviously.
Yeah.
And Splatoon. Right. I'm playing that. Splatoon, like, after the first couple weeks, it feels weird to not play it for like even a day. If I don't play it for a day, I'm like, I haven't played this game in months. Like, but
interesting. How so?
I don't know. It just feels weird. It just feels like I haven't played it in a long time. Whenever I don't play it, because like it's just one of those games that like incentivizes you to play it every day, and it feels good to play it every day. But when you don't, it's like, what the heck? I didn't play it yesterday. That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
So that I'm playing that, and even though I mostly have played it every day, I played it. There's some days that I didn't, and that was weird.
Weird.
Like, I didn't play it Sunday, which was kind of messed up because the Splatfest was still happening.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I got to Roller 1, but I could have got more sea snails if I got to Roller higher than that. But I did not, because I didn't play it on Sunday because I was doing stuff.
Yeah.
So rip that.
In what way does it incentivize you playing every day? Just like
there's new gear,
little rewards,
and you can play. You play level up more, and they swap out the weapons and like Salmon Run, and just stuff changes every day.
Yeah.
So you pop in and see what's changed. Like, I missed some gear in the shop, man. That's messed up. Also,
is it going to come back at some point?
Maybe.
Oh.
Like, I have seen some stuff come back that I already bought, whether it be from the NSO app, and then it just lets you level up the gear that you had before. But even that is like unfortunate, because there's like there's some stuff that's like level 1, where it has one unlockable perk and that's it. And you can find 3 or 2 more of those to make it 3 unlockable perks. And if I miss it one day, something that could have been level 3 is still level 1, or is now level 2, and it could have been level 3, and so on and so forth.
Gotcha.
I'm just missing out on stuff. Also, I was saving for this phone from my locker, and I missed it, man. It's gone. Who knows if I'll ever see that phone again. I freaking saved for a minute for that phone.
Man, that's tough. Like, I don't know that I'd be cut out for for that side of things.
Dumb.
The FOMO. Yeah.
Like, it does nothing. I just wanted it because it cost a lot. Like, that's the only reason why I wanted it. But yeah, I was like, oh, rip. But the other stuff is like, really, like, it's the type of thing that like you could find one piece of gear or get the necessary chunks or whatever, and then make your one outfit, and that's what you run. But I'm in the phase of the game where I'm just trying to buy everything so that I can have potentially multiple outfits that are like, oh, I want this outfit for this gun, and this outfit for this gun, or for this mode, or for this group of people,
Yep. It's interesting. Well, fine. Glad you're still enjoying it. I mean, expect that you probably will for a while.
It's true. Still got more and more people picking it up and buying it. I'm playing it with Wes, who is cursed. He's
still not using motion controls.
But he's cursed in like the more traditional sense. When like there's just some certain things with Splatoon as a video game that like intentionally or not, phrasing is questionable, and Wes steers hard into that skid.
What phrasing in what regard?
Like when he's like, "Yo, I'm trying to splat." I'm splatting all over the place, stuff like that. Yeah. That's Wes. His name in the video game is Big Cream. No. So yeah, it's like he
is it on purpose?
Yes, absolutely, it's on purpose.
I mean, then that.
So yeah.
More fine.
It's super cursed. But it's funny though. So I'm playing it with him and my other friend Zay and Princess and Alex, obsessed with it. Less so. Nice. I mean, not necessarily less so, but again, for one reason or another, just haven't been able to play it every day. Trev also. There's multiple people that we're down. We're here. We're in it.
Yeah.
Oh, Rise also is playing the video game.
There it is. So that's Splatoon. I have been playing. Honestly, yeah. I think last week, we didn't have an episode last week. I was gone. 2 weeks ago, I mentioned that I popped open new Pokemon Snap for some reason, and I just been playing some more of that just because it's a fun little game. And like I
find any shinies.
No, I forgot. Can you find shinies?
They're not in the game.
Okay, I was like, wait a minute.
I'll be sick.
But that does remind me that there's some areas that I need to go back to now because
of legendary Pokemon.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that was even a thing, but like I need to go check that out now. But yeah, I played the game quite a lot. Like honestly, I probably had like 25 hours or something like that in it, and yet there's still a bunch. I mean, there was the couple DLC courses, but it still feels like there's a bunch that I hadn't done or like finished leveling up levels or like gotten all the stars of Pokemon or whatever. So it's just a fun little thing to pop into, and like I don't get to play games that often these days, and there's some like games that I've tried to play around Ezra and just like see if like, oh, maybe she'd be interested in just watching this and hanging out. Most of the time that is not the case, so it just hasn't panned out. That game is one that like to some degree she'll be like, yeah, I'll pay attention to that and not try to steal the controller, because that's the difference. Is like sometimes she'll be like, okay, that's cool, but like, can I do whatever it is? And then that doesn't go particularly well in a number of directions. Tinykin, she also enjoyed what, but yeah, so I've been playing a little bit of Pokemon Snap, and it's just a fun little time. So there's that one.
Nice.
Yeah. What else for you?
Smash. Obviously.
Nice.
I feel like I'm getting better at the video game every day, man.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to go to the local though, which is kind of sad, but at the same time also not. Like I don't feel as much that I need to. Like after I got third, I was like, I can do this. Like I don't have to grind here anymore.
Right. Yeah.
But like I do want to go semi-regularly at least. I just don't want to do that at the detriment of other things like we've been talking about, doing shorts and stuff. So tomorrow I'm probably going to focus on that instead.
Nice.
To get some shorts done. But I still like get on like Smash Ladder and play that. I've been like messing around with tournament strategies on that, because they do have like the ranked best of 3s and best of 5s and stuff like that. So like there was like this Lucas player, and I have a lot of Lucas experience because Mars plays Lucas. So I was like, I'll just use Pokemon Trainer. I use Pokemon Trainer against Mars' Lucas all the time. But this Lucas specifically was camping me hard. He would not approach me at all. So I lost the first 2 games. But I was like, it's the best of 5. I have other games to play with. So on the last game, or what could have been the last game, I was like, I'm going to try Min because you don't want to come near me. I don't have to come near you. And I reverse 3-0'd him. And I was like, okay,
nice.
Bet.
That's a good feeling.
And there's been a lot of stuff like that, just like messing around with like Smash Ladder, where it like I'm finding the balance of PT and Min and understanding the nuance where it's like sometimes PT versus Min and which one to go is a character thing. Other times it's a player thing.
Right.
And
yeah.
it's
Makes
been
sense.
interesting to figure that out and learn that.
Yeah, because I mean, especially at this point, the people that you're playing against, like it feels like at like top level play, probably there's some consistency across like how characters would play certain things. Like people aren't going to just be camping or whatever. Right. So like that just isn't a thing to worry about. So like you have to figure out like how would Min play against a good Lucas versus a good this other person or whatever. But yeah, in your situation, I could see how that wouldn't be the case. So that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, that's the other thing. Like, and I feel like that's been the case ever since I became even a little good at Smash Brothers Ultimate. I've always performed better against players that are good than players that are like traditionally not. Because I'm like, the way that I play the game is to counter the way other people play the game.
Yeah.
And I'm used to countering optimal play. So when people are playing in a way that is like to try to cheese me, it's harder to understand where I need to be at to counter how they're playing, because I'm like, well, optimally this person should be this far, because if they're this close to me, I could in theory hit them with this, but they're just like, I'm just gonna smack my face on the right stick and see what happens. Yeah, it's like, oh, I didn't expect that. All right, I'm dead at 40, you know. Like, so like I've just I've been getting better at noticing player habits that are like specific to them, and like playing the game and being like, oh, you play like this and you'd like to be at this distance and you look for these type of attacks, versus like, you're this character, so you should be playing like X, Y, and Z. So yeah, I'm getting good at the video game.
Yeah. The last one that I'm playing that I can think of off the top of my head is I'm playing more Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torna expansion. I don't know. Just the other day I was like, I don't know, I'll pick that back up. And it's good. I don't know what's different now than when I was playing it a couple months ago or something, but I'm having more fun. I think I'm getting to the point now where like I've re-unlocked all of the all the combos and like being able to do chain attacks and all that kind of stuff. And I think all of that's fun. Like having the full force of your team's power is nice. Although I think there's still some other things I'm sure that I'll get tutorials for in the coming bits. But yeah, still, it's been fun to do that. And like trying to, I think not beelining it too much is also nice. Like going through and doing some of the side quests. I think that was something that was like a deterrent, or not deterrent, but like kind of a bit of a letdown with Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, was that like at some point I was just trying to finish the game, and like even when I was doing the side quests, it was like kind of trying to do them along the way of doing the main quest stuff, instead of just kind of settling into it, enjoying the world, taking part of the side quests and stuff like that. And I can see that it was, in that way, it would have been a better game than the experience that I got out of it, because I didn't really give it the room to breathe, I guess, if that makes sense. So this one I'm kind of just doing that more with, because also I know that it's not like a crazy long game or anything, so I can do that. And I think it's like a 20 or 30 hour RPG as opposed to like 100-hour one. So that's nice. But yeah, I'm having a fun time. I can't think of what else to say on that. So there it is. Xenoblade. I think that's about all.
We didn't do the podcast last week, so I also played Pokemon Sword and Shield more. And we were trying to get shinies. I talked about the last time I got a shiny, right? I got a shiny Bronzong or something like that. I don't think we got any other shiny since then. Sad. Which is cringe. But we're going to try to, hopefully I started the Dynamax Adventures getting a shiny. I want my last Dynamax Adventure to be a shiny. So hopefully before Scarlet and Violet comes out, I get a shiny, and it's like within a week or two. Because if that happens, I'm like, I'm never playing this again. I'm done. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Makes sense. I hope for your case, or for your sake, that you do get one. But until then,
should have just stopped at their Bronzong. Facts.
What's shiny Bronzong look like? Shiny
Ugly. It's
Bronzong.
Disgusting.
Ooh, yeah. No. I'm not here for that.
Nasty.
Barely any of the green shinies look good.
Yeah, green shinies are nasty.
Just because like things that aren't green shouldn't be green, you know? Yep. It just feels like a puke color.
Yeah, it feels like they're ill.
Yes, that's the one. So yeah, and just like those Pokemon look sick, we're sick of being here. We're not really, but the podcast is over.
It's true, it is over. Like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends to listen to the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, check it out on podcast services just for the download. If you're listening on podcast services, comment, subscribe on YouTube. youtube.com/directly to you. Also, if you just listen to the podcast for whatever reason, subscribe to our regular channel, man. We make regular videos. that happens. Also, we're going to start making shorts. Be on the lookout for those and engage with them for the algorithm. Yes. Okay, goodbye.